Alright, what up everybody? It's Cold Nerdy Core, back again with another video. This one's going to be a collecting video, so it's going to be tips and tricks that I've learned throughout my times collecting that will hopefully help you guys in your collections. The reason I decided to make this video is I had a lot of questions about when I was making my collecting videos on like how I obtained such a big collection, where I get most of my games from, where I get my money to afford all these games. So this video will hopefully answer a lot of those questions and also provide some tips, mainly focusing on video game collecting and movie collecting. They can be applied to other types of collecting, but those are the two I mainly focus on, so that's what you're getting my opinion and experience based off of. How I'm basically going to structure this video out is I'm basically going to come up with some steps that will help people find what they're into for collecting, a bunch of different niches that you can look into specifically when collecting with gaming and movies, and some tips on at least how I save money on collecting and tips I have on organizing and going through your collections and stuff like that. Hope you guys are going to enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's just get right into it. So the first step is to pick really what you're into and what you really want to collect. So this will be focusing on some main questions that will come up about like what certain, depending on what you're into, what certain niche of the collecting market you're going to fall under. Specifically for gaming, there's a lot of differences between you can be a retro collector, so that's like PS1 down. The problems with these collectings is that some of the games get very expensive, but another good thing about them is to get a good start in the collection. If say you're going for a full collection or something like that, there's a lot of very cheap games that you can pick up, so you can get a bulk of games really quick for these older consoles. The problem is the rarer games are very expensive and will fetch you quite a high price to get. If retro is not your thing, you can definitely go with a more modern console like the PS3, Xbox 360, even current consoles like the PS4 or the Switch. These markets, the good thing about them is that you can basically find all of the rarer or obscure games pretty easily for a decent price, because you can find them still a lot in certain stores in the wild, or certain people that just don't know the collector's value of them on like eBay or something like that. So that's definitely a benefit. The only non-benefit to it is you don't know what's going to become expensive and non-expensive, so you can be buying a bunch of games that you think are a good price now, but in like 5 to 10 years when the console starts to hit that more peak collector time, prices will drop and fluctuate, so you might have ended up spending way more money on basically full price games in order to obtain a collection that you could have in a couple of years. And then for movies specifically, it really comes down to what type of movies are you looking for. Are you looking to be more modern, like the Blu-ray or the 4K Blu-rays? Or you can go something back to like DVDs, which are very cheaper to collect compared to Blu-rays. Or you can even go back as far as VHS. It all just depends on the style and quality of the packaging and the movies itself that you're looking for when it comes to movies. The next thing I'd ask is, for gaming at least, is if you're into full-size consoles like the PS1 that I mentioned earlier, or the PS3 or something like that, or you're into handheld, so you can go modern with like the Switch, which is the modern version of a handheld that's also a home console, but it's mainly formatted as a handheld. You can go the DS, you can go the Vita. If you want to go a little older, you can get the Game Boy games, or the Game Boy Color. You can even go something like the Jaguar or something like that, more obscure ones. So it all just comes down to what your preference is and what you're trying to look to collect. So like some handhelds like the PS Vita have a very small library if you're going for a complete collection, but they're pretty pricey. And if you're going for limited run games, that's a whole other topic. But there's definitely, you have to look at the libraries, look at the type of games you like to play, look at what's fun for you to collect, and basically make your decision on what exactly you want to go for. The next step in all of collecting is to figure out if you're going for complete in box or not. This makes a huge difference when it comes to pricing and the amount of money you're going to be paying for certain things. So what complete in box means, for those of you who don't know, is that it comes with the manual, disc, and inserts for gaming. And for Blu-ray collection and stuff like that, it means usually it comes with a sleeve the case itself and all the inserts that come with the specific movie that you're looking for. For me personally, I try to get complete games, but as long as it comes with the case, the original case, the disc, that's usually okay for me. But I'd still try to look out for the complete in box because it feels more complete to have all the parts to it in my collection. And the final thing would be to decide if you're into special editions or special versions of certain things. So with gaming, that'd be if you're into the greatest hits. So it's the red labels on them instead of the normal white for the PlayStation games. The Xbox has silver instead of green, and Nintendo ones have, I think, red as well, at least for their Wii games. I don't know if they... And then the GameCubes have yellow, if I'm not mistaken. So basically this comes all down to aesthetics. If you like the look of the red things. I know there's some people that actually specifically only collect greatest hits or have a separate greatest hits collection from their main collection. So that's something some people do. I personally don't like the greatest hits at all, so I just collect the standard ones. But it's up to you. The good thing about greatest hits collection though is that the greatest hits games are cheaper to buy than the full price original games, so you can actually save a decent bit of money if you're fine supplementing some of the games you would get in the normal condition with greatest hits copy. And then for movies, you just gotta decide if you're into stuff like steel books or box sets instead of just getting the regular Blu-rays. This is what a steel book looks like. It's basically just a hardcover version with it usually has graphics about the movie or specifically tying with something like that, and usually have a couple like different versions of the movie inside of it, and are usually specific to certain stores or certain things, so they drive a higher price, but in my opinion they look cool. Another thing for movies specifically is, as I said before, the box sets. So these ones come with usually multiple movies of the same thing, or for TV shows, multiple seasons of the same TV show. You can get ones that have like compilations of a bunch of different things put together. This one specifically is the Godfather trilogy, and these usually retail drive a decent price, but once you wait and let the prices go down, you can actually get a good deal on the amount of movies you get or the amount of content you get per the box set. So they can sometimes actually save you a good bit of deals, and they actually look pretty good on the shelves in my opinion. And the final thing for step one you gotta ask yourself is, how specific of a collector are you gonna be? Are you gonna be someone that goes for a complete collection? So that means you go for the entire lot of a certain style of console or certain series or certain genre of movie or game, and try to collect that whole lot in that certain section? Or you're just going to be somebody who picks up certain games or movies that they're interested in, just trying to collect a lot of them and collect the ones that you're interested in and try to build your knowledge of the certain collection thing you're into. Me personally, I am kind of in the middle. I eventually want to try to go for a complete, possibly PS3 collection. But right now I don't have the financial ability to be able to seek out games just to have games, or I really don't have the storage anyways, which is another point I'll touch on later. But I eventually would like to do it, so right now I just collect games that I would like to play. Alright, so next up is probably the most important step, and that is managing your budget. So everybody has a different budget based off of job circumstances, family, the area that you live in. A lot of this is not in your control, and this is a big point when it comes to collecting and how dedicated you got to be to collecting, is that you got to balance your budget around what you want to do with your collection. So if you're a complete collector and then you don't have the biggest budget, you really got to learn to manage with that money to try to get the most bang for your buck. It's very important to set a limit for, say, each month or each year, how much money you can put aside for collecting safely without going into more important financial stuff. Make sure to try to, even if you have the financial means to, try to save money where you can. It helps either way, because you can either put that money aside for more spending on games later, or you can put that money towards something else to hopefully better your life in another way. So it's just important to budget and don't overspend when it comes to collecting. Alright, so step 3, I'm going to give you some tips on how I deal hunt at least. I'm not super hardcore as some other people are, but I don't really have the size of a collection to really warrant being that hardcore. So my first tip when it comes to step 3, which is deal hunting, would be to limit the amount of new purchases you make. So that means limiting the amount of stuff you buy exactly when it comes out. This is mainly towards gaming, because movies usually will hold their price for a very long time unless the movie doesn't do as good financially or with consumers, so they'll eventually drop it. But games usually drop pretty quick. So what I would recommend is, what I do is I'll set like a limit of like 2 to 3 games that I'll buy for full price, and then the rest of them, if a game comes out that I'm looking for that's that year, I'll wait for either Boxing Day or Black Friday, because those 2 days, at least EB Games, Best Buy, Walmart, and online resources like Amazon will have them at least $20 to $30 off, which if you can save that money, say there's 3 games that you were going to buy specifically exactly when they came out, but instead you waited those couple of months for those events and you got $30 off of each game, you just saved $90. So that's big when it comes to collecting, and that would be my first tip. My second tip would be show patience and limiting when it comes to collecting, especially if you're not a complete collector. I get complete collecting where you kind of just buy bulk and buy as many as you can to fill up a certain section. But if you're like me and you just buy games that you know you're going to play, what I like to do is I like to have a separate stack of the games that I have bought and haven't played yet, and I'll sit it on my shelves, not in my actual main shelves, but just on the side, so it's a separate stack. And I have to lower the amount of games I have on the stack before I can buy another game, so it helps limit the amount I spend throughout the year. I find it really helps for me, because it visualizes like, damn, I have like 12 games up there that I haven't played. If I just buy games, I'm just putting more on the shelf that I'm not going to play, and I'm just wasting money. Another thing would be is assessing the resources that you got. So around me specifically, there's like Walmart, EB Games, a couple thrift stores, Best Buy. There's one retro game shop, but their prices are absurd. So you really want to look at what's in your area and learn when their sales are, when they have stuff on clearance. A big one for clearances is actually Walmart. So this is what their clearances usually look like. They'll have their regular price, which is absurd for the game, but then they marked it down to, I think this one was $4. So usually look for those in like the back of their electronics section. They'll usually have a sign that says clearance. For EB Games, they have the $5 Fridays, so sometimes they'll have games there for $5. Or you got to keep a look there for in between console generations. They'll usually have a clearance kind of event, but they don't actually announce it, where they'll basically bring out kind of like one of those bins, and then they'll put a bunch of games in, and they'll sell them for like cheap as can be. I got Beyond Two Souls, Anarchy Reigns, Aliens, and a couple others for $1 each. When I caught that event, so I got like 7 games for that. So those type of things are really good to keep an eye out. So it's always good to, if you can get it in your schedule, just to keep on checking in on certain locations that you got around you to check for deals. The next tip would be thrift stores. Now I know some people get this misconception around thrift stores that they're all dirty and don't like buying secondhand stuff. I volunteered at the thrift store, and I buy movies from there all the time. There's a few tips that I would do when buying stuff from thrift stores, and that would be, 1, analyze the packaging, and for games and stuff like that, because they usually tape the games and movies to make sure nobody steals it. Shake it a bit to see if the disc is in there and see if it's in there securely, so you limit the amount of chance that there is scratches. And also test the weight of it to see if you're looking for complete, if the manual and stuff and inserts are there that you're looking for. And also, this is a weird tip, but I find I've had issues with it before, is if you're not a smoker or don't like the smell of smoke, make sure you smell whatever you're buying from the thrift store or any sort of secondhand, like uh, like a garage sale or anything like that, because any smell that lingers on a product like smoke, it will carry and stay with that product for forever, and anything you have beside it will eventually start to smell like it. So if you want to not ruin your collection in terms of the smell of it, and you don't want it just reeking of smoke, make sure you smell whatever you're gonna buy. It's weird, I know, but it's a helpful tip. Let's keep on the topic of thrift stores. I find it's the best place to buy movies. I don't usually buy games from there. I'll buy occasionally from thrift stores, but movies I find are a really good place to buy, especially if you're into DVD collecting, because you can get like DVDs for $1 each, at least at my local thrift store. And my final tip for collecting would be to use online resources like eBay and stuff like that. If you're looking for, especially if you're complete collecting, you can usually find very good hauls of like a stack of games, and there will be only one or two of value, but the price will be good enough that it makes getting all those games, including like whatever the sports titles that you might need to fill up your complete collection, it might make that all. So my final step would be to make sure you choose a way you store your games or movies or whatever, your figures or whatever that really suits you and you're really going to enjoy. Because the main part of collecting is to see your collection grow and be able to like display it and kind of show it off. So I would definitely recommend making sure you choose your shelving correctly, where you're going to display it, making sure you have the ample room to properly display your collection. Don't just buy a bunch of stuff that you have nowhere to put because your room's too small or something like that. And then you got to decide how you're going to organize them. So do you want to go alphabetically? Do you want to go by certain genres? Do you want to go by certain directors or producers when it comes to movies? Do you want to go by certain game developers, or separated by console, or separated by company? So there's a lot of choices when it comes to that. I personally do alphabetical and then separate them based on the style of device that I'm using it on. So the PS4 games and PS3 games will be separate. My DVDs and Blu-rays and my 4K Blu-rays are all separate, but they're alphabetically organized in their separate categories. So that really sums up the video. These were just some collecting tips. I hope you guys, even one tip from them, hope you guys can use. And hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching all the way through if you did. And remember, everybody has some nerdiness at their core.